Alright everybody, it's Phil Birch again. Going to be talking to you today about defensive decks in the third of my videos about the archetypes of UFS. And hopefully all you new players out there do find these helpful and maybe getting a base on what you should be doing in the game with certain types of decks, certain symbols. And obviously if you have any questions I can go in a little bit more depth. Just send me PMs, Facebook messages, anything like that. Phil Birch on Facebook, Birch on the forums, and then obviously my YouTube account, King Salty. Alright, so basically defensive decks, they are walls. Everything about them is a wall. All the cards they play are pretty much wall cards, and they just sit behind them and hope for you to overexert yourself trying to kill them. Basically what they're going to do is they're going to build up an unbreakable, think of it as like a fortress that you can't break through. They want to put up all their defenses and make you try and exhaust yourself getting through so that it's easier for them to just finally give a little push back and then win. It's they're very viable currently. They're more so than control decks. Control decks are a little lacking, as I explained in my last video. But life and good and a ton of different symbols, water, fire, death, kind of can all do a little bit of their own walling. It's on their own little variety too, and they all do it pretty well. Life walls is going to be obviously your strongest type of wall. Life is the best symbol right now and has been for probably the better part of a year. It's just got better and better pretty much as the sets go on. It started off pretty weak, but now it's getting a lot of pieces to complement everything. The life cards, you all know they have the anti-board control cards, defensive actions like Revoke, Templar, stuff like that. They're really good at keeping themselves alive while keeping you from doing damage to them. They have tons of sustainability through cards like Sweet Ridiculous, Flexible Body. They just basically stay alive until they want you to either overexert or just die. Um, Not really any particular good way to get through all their cards. Stun doesn't really work because of Torn Hero. Destruction doesn't work because of Rebirth. And things like that. Just really hard to deal with. Revoke, another hard card to deal with, I guess, because it can catch you off guard, negates one of your keywords or anything like that you need to go through for them to lose. Templars, obviously, just the easy block, gives them life back, draws them cards, and lets them take more turns than they actually need to get, I guess. Gives them an advantage while doing their thing, or while you're trying to kill them, they're going to gain card advantage. If they're playing, I guess, reversals, they can draw into reversals, stuff like that. Really, these decks kind of kill with Trib, tend to kill Trib, throws, stuff like that. Maybe even to a lesser extent reversals like a Plow. But the real thing you have to worry about with these is definitely Trib. So if you are playing against a life deck and you find yourself gaining a pretty sizable advantage, make sure you don't take them into desperation without being able to confirm a kill, because then Tribulation just can come out, and even two copies can just come out and just destroy you. And that's a really common thing right now. Next, I'm going to be talking about good walls. They're not as popular, but we've seen some success from them. Garrett Brett won nationals with a good wall Amy deck. Definitely the best character to good wall with is Amy. They have access to cards that will prevent them from being committed. Torn Hero, again, shares it with life. It just keeps them pretty much unstunnable. You can't really respond to them with Garrett's action because they'll just turn it back into their favor and negate like pretty much the whole process. Along with that, Goodwall has access to when the moon comes over the mountain. Perhaps the best action in the game, along with Revoking Templar. Those are really the big three. and they have access to that for both offense and defensive purposes, which is really good. Um, they have a pretty okay reversal line. They've got Kaplow, they've got snap kicks, triple badas, just a couple of cards to mention. They have Amy's House, Ostrandergenberg Castle, Throne Room. It's something like that. We just call it Amy's Castle sometimes. A lot easier. Hild's Weapon to draw a card. Tons and tons of pre-art reduction cards in Shadow War. Um, Drawing a blank on them though, of course, when the time comes to think of them. They have access to Sweet Ridiculous again. Um, um, yeah, I'm just trying to think of some reduction cards to help you all out, but I can't think of any. Well, they're there if you look for them. They have access to a couple of anti-reversal cards too, which makes them pretty good matchups against Vespera. They have access to Uncovering the Truth and Good and Evil, both of which shut down reversals, so it gives you a better chance against Vespera. Let's move on to Water. Water reversals, pretty much. Water Wall is more just reversaling. You want to block your opponent's attacks and reversal them. Plays cards like Together Again, Strange Fashion, to keep your opponent's damage output very low and your blocking very easy. Damnation is a good card that it's a good control card that Water Walls get access to. It'll help you negate some of their key enhances off foundations. Then we have cards like Penance are going to be really good in Water because, well, Penance, as you all know, is pretty good recursion card for reversals. And grabbing back reversals is a big part of Water strategy. They have cards like Rising Typhoon. Obviously, you can't grab that with Penance, but that's a huge reversal for them. Multiple 2 on a reversal is pretty sick, even on a 1 check. They also have access to When the Moon Comes Over the Mountain. As I've said earlier, great card. It's going to let you pick up blocks, it's going to let you pick up defensive cards and stuff like that. And I think Water reversal decks aren't very good. They can get going and really do a lot of damage, but it's pretty hard for them to kill you. So if they get going and then you just stop their kill turn, it's pretty much, if you're holding and draw a good hand, you're gonna win, in my opinion at least. But they do have like access to Killik as a lead character, and that's kind of annoying. Vespera obviously very annoying. Amy as well. They get access to like the same 3. Those are the big 3, I guess I'd say, for defensive characters in the game, and they all pretty much have Water. Like I said, just sustain, trying to keep yourself alive, and you should be able to power through Water reversal decks. It's not easy, but it's something you have to deal with. It's the same with all wall decks. All defensive wall decks are very, very tough to beat for new players, especially if they have access to know when to talk and stuff like that, which those first 3 deck types I mentioned all can play Know When to Talk, and that can really affect kill turns. That card's probably top 5 card in the game, just because it breaks up and makes everything so much harder to do. It really needs to have something change about it, I think, but that's definitely for another video. Moving on, we've got a fire kind of damage reduction build. Probably the worst type of defensive deck in the current Carnation. But they have cards like Shadow War, Ultimate Team, Standoff, and Pay to Protect, all that minus damage, along with a couple of cards that can bring damage to the table. So they're easier to beat, but they also have a higher damage output. So they're not going to sit back and wait 6-7 turns or whatever to kill you. They're going to try and do it in 3-4. And the defensive pieces are going to double back as offensive pieces for the most part. So it's not really necessarily that they're using them to wall up. It's more that they're using them to do the damage. And that makes it tough for some decks to deal with. If you can't throw out their damage quick enough to kill them, then you might just end up getting Dragon Lifted and stuff by a Fire Cassie that's playing good defensive cards. And finally, a death control wall deck, I guess, to some extent, would work. Examples listed kind of characters like Vespera and Alice. A really good example, I guess, of why I think this would fit into this category is just probably my deck, my Vespera deck, which is up in the forums if you'd like to look at it. You play a lot of the defensive cards like Vespera herself, Penance. Then you play like the cards that flip things face down, flip them back up, kind of stuff like that for damage and speed, but also to make blocking easier. You can make cards mid with Manhunt. You can pick up blocks with Left 4 Dead. You can use Celestial Being to stop like stuns and stuff like that, and that's really crucial and very, very good for any of the symbols that can play it. Death also, like a Death Wall would also have access to cards like Ka Techniques, Know Your Objective to fight walls and stuff like that. And also just good reversals. Alice and Vespera both gave pretty good reversals to Death. You know about Paralyzing Touch, but pretty underrated like replacement to that would be Surprise Punishment. Because the enhance just on Surprise Punishment, if timed correctly, is very, very devastating. You can do upwards of like 10 damage depending on how late in their turn they are. And like reversal Surprise Punishments on anybody trying to zing you, that's like a hard 11 damage they're going to take from that Surprise Punishment per zing attempt. So once they do it once and figure out it's not going to work, they're going to be at a huge disadvantage already. So those are really what I think define defensive decks in the current incarnation. The Death deck, I think just you have to wait for like the right moments to pick your spots to beat it. Like turn 1 and 2, I think you have a good opportunity to do some potential damage. 3 to 5, I think you're going to have to kind of sit on your hands unless you're playing throws, and hope they can't and just let them and just try and build to a win. Like 6 and 7, they're going to slow down considerably their build, the Death deck that is. So you're going to want to try and maybe either outpace them right then, or match them and try and keep your hand with attacks. And once they hit the mill, which is why they're slowing down, then you want to go in and just hope that they don't have their killer reversals, or they don't have the setup to beat you. Because as soon as they reversal, they're the most, or as soon as they cycle, they're going to be the most vulnerable to damage. And that's really how a solid strategy against them could go. All right. Well, that's going to be my take on defensive decks. Once again, we have life walls, good walls, water reversals, fire damage reduction, and then death wall control. And like, if you have any questions or anything about like what I'm talking about today, just feel free to ask me. And as always, hit subscribe, and I'll be sending you tons more videos to come in the future. All right. So this is Phil Birch checking out, and let's go. Let's get this process going.